each other, the same thing is naturally adapted to be produced. How therefore does it happen that no one is continually delighted? Is it because he becomes at length weary? For all human concerns are incapable of energizing continually. Neither therefore can pleasure be generated in an uninterrupted continuity, for it is consequent to energy. Some things, however, delight when they are new, but afterwards, for this reason, because pleasure cannot be generated incessantly, do not similarly delight. For at first, indeed, the discursive power of the soul inclines towards, and intently energizes about these, in the same manner as those who look intently at any thing. Afterwards, however, an energy of this kind is no longer produced, but it becomes remiss. Hence, the pleasure also is obscured. It may, however, be thought that all men aspire after pleasure, because all of them desire to live. But life is a certain energy, and every one energizes about and in those things which he especially loves. Thus, for instance, the musician energizes with the hearing about the melodies. But the lover of disciplines energizes with the discursive power of his soul about theorems, and in a similar manner the lover of other pursuits. But pleasure perfects energies, and it likewise perfects life, which is the object of desire. Reasonably, therefore, do all men aspire after pleasure, for it gives perfection to the life of each, which is an eligible thing. We shall, however, omit for the present to consider whether we choose to live on account of pleasure, or choose pleasure for the sake of living. For these things appear to be conjoined, and do not admit of being separated. For pleasure is not produced without energy, and pleasure gives perfection to every energy. CHAPTER 5. Hence, also, pleasures appear to be specifically different. For we are of opinion that things specifically different are perfected through perfections specifically different. For this appears to be the case, both with natural and artificial productions. As for instance with animals and trees, pictures and statues, houses and furniture. In a similar manner, therefore, we are of opinion that energies specifically different are perfected by things that differ in species. But the energies of the discursive powers of reason differ from the energies of the senses, and these are specifically different from each other. Hence, also, the pleasures which give perfection to these are specifically different. This, however, will also become apparent from hence, that each of the pleasures is intimately familiarized with the energy which it perfects. For appropriate pleasures co-increase energy, since those who energize in conjunction with pleasure energize about everything more accurately, and with more exquisite judgment. Thus, for instance, those become more excellent geometricians, who are delighted to geometrize, and they understand in a greater degree every thing geometrical. The like also takes place with the lovers of music, the lovers of architecture, and the lovers of the other arts. For each of these makes a proficiency in his proper employment, if he delights in it. Pleasures, therefore, co-increase energies, but things which co-increase are appropriate. And to things which are specifically different, the things also which are appropriate are specifically different. Again, this will in a greater degree become apparent, from considering that pleasures which are produced from different things are an impediment to energies. For the lovers of the flute cannot attend to discourse if they hear any one playing on the flute, in consequence of being more delighted with the melody of the flute, than with the present energy, i.e. than with what is said. The pleasure, therefore, which is produced by the melody of the flute corrupts the energy of discourse. And in a similar manner, this also happens in other things, when a man energizes at one and the same time about two things. For the more delectable energy expels the other, and this in a still greater degree, if it very much surpasses in pleasure, so as to render it impossible to energize according to the other energy. Hence, when we are very much delighted with any thing, we do not in any great degree perform anything else. But when we are only moderately pleased with certain things, we can do others. Thus those who in the theatres eat sweetmeats, are especially accustomed to do this when the performers act badly. Since, however, appropriate pleasure gives accuracy to energies, and renders them more lasting and better, but foreign pleasures corrupt them, it is evident that these pleasures differ very much from each other. For nearly foreign pleasures effect the same thing as appropriate pains, i.e. as the pains which are consequent to certain energies. Thus if it is unpleasant and painful to any one to write, or to any one to reason, the former indeed will not write, and the latter will not reason, in consequence of the energy being painful. From appropriate pleasures and pains, therefore, that which is contrary happens about energies. But those pleasures and pains are appropriate which are essentially consequent to energy. And with respect to foreign pleasures, we have already observed that they effect something similar to pain. For they corrupt, though not in a similar manner. Since, however, energies differ in probity and depravity, and some of them indeed being eligible, but others to be avoided, and others being neither, pleasures also have a similar mode of subsistence. For there is an appropriate pleasure in every energy. The pleasure, therefore, which is appropriate to a worthy energy is worthy, but that which is appropriate to a bad energy is depraved. For the desires, indeed, of things truly beautiful are laudable, but of base things are blameable. The pleasures, however, which are in energies, are more appropriate to the energies than desires are. For desires, indeed, are separated from energies, by time and by nature. But pleasures are proximate to energies, and are so indistinct from them, as to render it dubious whether energy is the same with pleasure. It does not appear, however, that pleasure is either the discursive energy of reason or sense. For it would be absurd to suppose that it is. Though on account of the inseparability of pleasure from energy, it seems to certain persons to be the same with it. As therefore energies are different, so likewise pleasures. But the sight differs from the touch in purity, and the hearing and the smell from the taste. Hence the pleasures also of these senses similarly differ, and those which pertain to the discursive energy of reason likewise differ, and both these differ from each other. It seems, however, that there is an appropriate pleasure to every animal, just as there also is an appropriate work. For this pleasure is that which subsists according to energy, and this will be apparent from a survey of each particular. For there is one pleasure of a horse, another of a dog, and another of a man. And as Heraclitus says, an ass would prefer straw to gold, because food is more delectable to asses than gold. The pleasures, therefore, of animals specifically different are likewise specifically different. But it is reasonable to suppose that the pleasures of the same animals are without a specific difference. There is no small variety, however, in pleasures among men. For the same things are painful to some, and pleasing to others. And to some indeed they are painful and odious, but to others delectable and lovely. This likewise happens to be the case in sweet things. For the same things do not appear sweet to a man in a fever, and to one who is well. Nor does the same thing appear to be hot to him who is weak, and to him who is of a good habit of body. And in a similar manner this happens to be the case in other things. In all such things as these, however, that is simply delectable, which appears to be so to the worthy man. But if this is well said, as it appears that it is, and virtue is the measure of every thing, and a good man so far as he is good, those things will be pleasures which appear to be so to the good man, and those things will be delectable in which he rejoices. It is however by no means wonderful, if things which appear to him to be of a troublesome nature, should to another person of a different character appear to be delectable. For many corruptions and noxious circumstances happen to men, but these are not simply delectable, except to these persons, and to those who are thus disposed. With respect, therefore, to those pleasures which are acknowledged to be base, it is evident that they are not to be called pleasures, except by corrupt men. But with respect to those pleasures which appear to be worthy, what is the quality of the pleasure, or what shall we say the pleasure is, which is proper to men? Or shall we say that this is evident from energies? For pleasures are consequent to these. Whether, therefore, there is one energy, or whether there are many energies of the perfect and blessed man, the pleasures which give perfection to these may be properly called the pleasures of man. But the remaining pleasures, in the same manner as the energies, may be denominated